did not have bread. I saw him bring people back from the dead. He drove out demons from the demon bound and taught us how to walk on holy ground. He made the leper skin like new. The storm dissipated when he told it to. Took jars of water, turned it into wine. To save, even heal this heart of mine. We have seen his glory. We have seen his glory. We have seen his glory.
What?
The one and only Son.
Those two. I don't trust those
I was there the day when the dove came down.
What's going on behind the camera that's making me nervous? Hey everyone.
Worse than usual.
This is, I got it, I think. Welcome to Tuesday Night Bible Study with Darin and Denny. Yeah. Welcome.
That's pretty much what it is.
Welcome.
First time in a while.
Yeah. We're not at the cabin.
No.
We're in a house.
Kind of like to be at the cabin.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Well, it'd be cold.
Right now, yeah, it would be kind of cold.
No snow today, but
It was warm.
60-some degrees. First day of winter?
Yesterday,
First full
yeah.
day? Or yesterday was.
This first full day after,
The first full day?
well, after the star of Bethlehem was shown
Don't start.
in the night sky, lighting the way
Yes.
for all of us.
Well, all right. That's
Okay.
a whole other Bible study. Okay. Welcome. Glad that you're here. We have off camera the producer, Lee.
We've tripled our production
We
crew.
tripled the production crew. Brooke.
Oh yeah,
is
you're
here.
part of this now.
Brooke's part of this. And Austin, he's part of this as well. So there's three behind the camera that you can't see that are keeping us straight, right?
Well, I guess we'll find out. I don't trust them.
Well, I'm glad they're in front of us.
That's true.
I'll say that.
Instead of crouching behind this
Crouching, yeah. Well, if you tuned in last
Thursday.
it was Thursday, wasn't it? Okay. Let's say last Tuesday. Well, last time we were at the cabin and we looked at John chapter 17. And tonight we will look at John chapter 18, the arrest of Jesus. Peter denies him, and he's before Pilate in chapter 18 of John. It is there's a lot happening. It's a big chapter, even though it's just 40 verses. So what we thought we would do is read the entire chapter and then go back and kind of unpack it, I guess.
There's a lot
I've always
there,
wanted
yeah.
to say that.
Unpack it?
Unpack it. That sounds so, I don't know.
It sounds like something.
Doesn't it sound like something?
Unpack
this.
it.
Yeah. Some people.
Sounds like teacher jargon.
It doesn't it? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll unpack this.
Mm-hmm.
And you can help us do that. So
Oh yeah, because we're live.
Yes,
now
we
we
are
can
live.
Get some comments here, not like last time.
yeah. Last time was Memorex.
Yeah.
Or something.
Even though there still were some good comments,
Yes.
we just couldn't address them at the moment. So
Yeah. So thank you for that. And thanks for tuning in tonight. Darin's going to read, as he always does so eloquently, chapter 18.
I am. All right. When Jesus had spoken these words, he went out with his disciples across the brook Kidron, where there was a garden, which he and his disciples entered. Now Judas, who betrayed him, also knew the place, for Jesus often met there with his disciples. So Judas, having procured a band of soldiers and some officers from the chief priests and the Pharisees, went there with lanterns and torches and weapons. Then Jesus, knowing all that would happen to him, came forward and said to them, "Whom do you seek?" They answered him, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus said to them, "I am he." Judas, who betrayed him, was standing with them. When Jesus said to them, "I am he," they drew back and fell to the ground. So he asked them again, "Whom do you seek?" And they said, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus answered, "I told you that I am he. So if you seek me, let these men go." This was to fulfill the word that he'd spoken, "Of those whom you gave me, I've lost no one." Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. So Jesus said to Peter, "Put your sword into its sheath. Shall I not drink the cup my father's given me?" So the band of soldiers and their captain and the officers of the Jews arrested Jesus and bound him. And first they led him to Annas, for he was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, who was the high priest that year. It was Caiaphas who had advised the Jews that it would be expedient that one man should die for the people. Simon Peter followed Jesus, and so did another disciple. Since that disciple was known to the high priest, he entered with Jesus into the courtyard of the high priest, but Peter stood outside the door. So the other disciple, who was known to the high priest, went out and spoke to the servant girl who kept watch of the door, and brought Peter in. The servant girl at the door said to Peter, "You also are not one of the man's disciples, are you?" He said, "I am not." Now the servants and the officers had made a charcoal fire because it was cold, and they were standing and warming themselves. And Peter was with them, standing and warming himself. The high priest then questioned Jesus about his disciples and his teaching. Jesus answered him, "I have spoken openly to the world. I have always taught in synagogues and in the temple where all the Jews come together. I have said nothing in secret. Why do you ask me? Ask those who've heard me what I said to them. They know what I said." When he had said these things, one of the officers standing by struck Jesus with his hand, saying, "Is that how you answer the high priest?" Jesus answered him, "If what I said is wrong, bear witness about the wrong. But if I said what is right, why do you strike me?" Annas then sent him bound to Caiaphas, the high priest. Now Simon Peter was standing and warming himself, so they said to him, "You also are not one of his disciples, are you?" He denied it and said, "I'm not." One of the servants of the high priest, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, asked, "Did I not see you in the garden with him?" Peter again denied it, and at once a rooster crowed. Then they led Jesus from the house of Caiaphas to the governor's headquarters. It was early morning. They themselves did not enter the governor's headquarters so that they would not be defiled, but could eat the Passover. So Pilate went outside to them and said, "What accusation do you bring against this man?" They answered him, "If this man were not doing evil, we would not have delivered him over to you." Pilate said to them, "Take him yourselves and judge him by your own law." The Jews said to him, "It's not lawful for us to put anyone to death." This was to fulfill the word that Jesus had spoken, to show by what kind of death he was going to die. So Pilate entered his headquarters again and called Jesus and said to him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Do you say this of your own accord, or did others say it to you about me?" Pilate answered, "Am I a Jew? Your own nation and the chief priests have delivered you over to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would have been fighting that I might not be delivered over to the Jews. But my kingdom is not from the world." Then Pilate said to him, "So you are a king?" Jesus answered, "You say that I'm a king. For this purpose I was born, and for this purpose I have come into the world, to bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice." Pilate said to him, "What is truth?" After he said this, he went back outside to the Jews and told them, "I find no guilt in him. But you have a custom that I should release one man for you at the Passover. So, do you want me to release to you the king of the Jews?" They cried out again, "Not this man, but Barabbas." Now Barabbas was a robber. Or thief, I guess.
Thief.
That's a lot of reading. And
Yeah.
after that gravy-filled meal that I had.
Yeah.
My throat was a little coated.
We were
It was
fed well.
wonderful, but doesn't lend itself to reading
No.
very long.
So
Let's unpack this.
Let's unpack it. All right. First thing we come to here is the scene where, excuse me.
Well, he just finished praying, and it's almost the way it reads is it immediately after he just finished saying these things, they went and I assume
Crossed the valley.
And have you done any research on this Kidron Valley?
Not for this
This is
study.
an interesting place. It carries a lot of historical significance to the Jewish people. I would encourage you to do some research on this. Not you, but them. The Kidron Valley. This and what kind of place it held for the Jews, and how important it was to them.
And it's interesting when he brings up certain names or certain places. This is, for a reason that these places are mentioned in particular.
They're landmarks,
right?
And that, we were at the cabin the other day, and Dad and I would tell each other where things were happening based on certain landmarks that we had established, so we knew where we were, and that's what's going on here. That we know about now where this was because we have these landmarks that that John wrote down for us.
So they were at verse 3. Judas came to the grove, guiding a detachment of soldiers and some officials from the chief priests and the Pharisees. They're carrying torches and lanterns and weapons, and well, who do you want? Who is it that you want? Jesus of Nazareth. I'm he.
Why do you think they have weapons?
Well,
Judas was with him from practically the beginning. Saw every miracle that he did. Saw him raise a man from the dead and heal blind people and hurt people and demon-possessed people. Yeah. And here they come with a sword.
Well, I think it has, in verse 36, when Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jews. So obviously they are thinking that this is a worldly kingdom.
Exactly.
They're not thinking.
Well, that Jesus could somehow be subdued with weapons.
Well, or they might be attacked. They might his followers might,
which
might be.
They did.
Yeah. Well, right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So there's something that happens here. It's interesting, at least verse 6, when Jesus said, "I am He." They drew back and fell to the ground. What do you make of that?
Yeah,
I'm interested. We're interested to hear what you make of that. The three of you behind the camera, what you make of this? Must be taking a break. Or something.
Okay.
But does anybody else have a different version? I know at verse 6, does it say anything in a different way?
Bob Harper says Roman soldiers from the fortress of Antonia. Soldiers carry weapons.
Yeah. Yeah. When they drew back and they fell to the ground.
I'm wondering what that voice sounded like when he said, "I am He." It's one of those "I am" statements again. We've been kind of talking about through this book.
Yeah.
He says "I am" several times, and when God told Moses what his name was, I'm wondering if it's the same voice that came out then.
No doubt, there's some power behind this, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know. They fell to the ground. You don't. They didn't trip and fall. They went to the ground. They wouldn't have otherwise. Doesn't sound like.
These are, highly trained military,
and
soldiers.
So, if you're one of them and you get, and he says, "I am he," and you draw back and you fall to the ground. I don't know what's going through your mind at that point, but it may be, who are we dealing with here?
Well, and notice who makes the first move here. They come in with swords and torches, and who speaks first? They didn't come in shouting, "Where is he?" He, I think, to protect his disciples. He even says that later on. Who are you looking for? Takes the attention off of any of them and puts it squarely on himself.
Well, look at verse 4. Jesus, knowing all that was going to happen to him. So he understood everything that was going on here, had a clear picture of it, and it's quite amazing that here is God in a body, in a human body, dealing with human beings. He's the one that created human beings. He's the one that gave us voice and gave us animation and gave us, a soul and gave us the yearning for him.
He's the one that walked with Adam in the garden, and they talked. He's the one that talked to Moses. We talked about this last night. Talked to Moses like a friend.
Yeah.
And now
it's coming to this.
They've come to kill him.
Yeah. It's amazing. Well, this isn't anything new for God. It's nothing new.
It's not it's not surprise.
You look at his people in the Old Testament. It was their following was like this. They did and they didn't, and they you read the book of Hosea. You read. Just pick a book in the Old Testament where God's people didn't just go away from Him. Now, not that they didn't come back, but so God is used to.
I was going to say, are we any different?
Yeah.
We all have. I think we kid ourselves if we don't admit that we have times of weakness.
Sure.
And times where we feel good about what we're doing and when our faith is strong and so God knows us.
Yeah.
He knows us better than we know ourselves. He knows what we're capable of.
And so it comes down to these men were following. They were followers of Jesus. He handpicked them. He's the one that said to each one of them, "Come follow me." And so they're following. And then we get this major stumble by the follower, Peter, who doesn't believe. We know from some of the other writings that doesn't believe that he's going to do this, and he does. So
that's some of the most dangerous words to say. I'll never
do that.
I'll never do that.
Yeah. Well, never
it's
say never.
Almost a guarantee that you will.
Yeah.
But you have to admire his conviction anyway.
Sure.
That he would never intentionally.
He's speaking what he wants to do.
Right.
And you were kind of barking up that same tree. There are things that we want to do. We want to follow Jesus in you might even say in a perfect way. And yet we find ourselves following to a point, and then maybe when we hit a snag, we are challenged in some way, maybe, and we trip up, we slip up, we don't do what we intended to do.
Paul writes about that in
doesn't
detail,
he? Yeah,
later on.
Right. And at this point, Yeah, the Apostle Paul, no. He's Saul the Pharisee, and he is not. He's not in with this.
He's in the crowd,
Yeah,
shouting,
he's not.
"Release Barabbas."
He's not. He's not part of this following of Jesus, but he will be. It's an interesting thing how, people can change, and so all of you watching, taking part in this, those of us that are here. We all have opportunity to follow.
Well, and when we look at the biblical examples that we have of human beings following God, we see their failings. We see their weakness, and that's intentional. He wants us to see that perfection is not something for us to grasp. It's out of our grasp. He gives us the one thing, the one person that makes us perfect without being perfect.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It makes sense to me.
Okay, good.
Okay, can we go back?
Yes, let's go back.
Back to when the soldiers fell down, Bob Harper says, "Can you say miracle?" And then also Jamie James says, "I think you guys are on target.
Hey, I like that.
Light obliterates darkness. I believe the Holy Spirit moved in power through Jesus' words and impacted them because the truth hit them so powerfully in contrast to the darkness of the task they were set to perform. Interesting, Jesus, whom they all knew, claimed to be the Son of God."
And not just figurative darkness. It was dark. Which was against Jewish law, I believe. A lot of things happening right here went against the Jewish law as far as when things were to take place, as far as trials and things like that.
Yeah, going back to verse 6 here, that when they fall to the ground, I don't know how else you describe this other than, if Jesus says, "I am He," and these guys fall down, I'm willing to say that it was because of the power of that statement. "I am He." Because He is. It's bigger. They're wanting to know. Let's see. What was the question? What is it that you want, Jesus? Who is it that you want, Jesus of Nazareth? And then he said, "I am He." Judas the traitor was standing there with them. When Jesus said, "I am He," they drew back and fell to the ground. So, did Judas fall to the ground too?
I don't know.
This was a powerful statement. It's the truth. And
Well,
everything that's going on here is a lie. It's a cover-up.
He got their attention.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
he could have just said, I am He regular, and I think things might have been different, but he got their attention. He said, "Okay, now ask me again. Who are you looking for?"
Yeah.
And I think with the intention to protect the other 11 that were with him.
Yeah. I think if you want to demonstrate power, Peter is going to he's going to try to kill poor Malchus.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
He's trying to kill.
He's not trying to kill
the guy. He's not saying, let me hack a little of your ear off here. I'm going to show you what I mean.
No.
He was going for it, and so that's what they thought they were going to get into. But all Jesus did, this is something. He just uses what God used, what He used in the beginning to create everything.
Just His voice.
His words. And so there's a powerful thing going on here. So, yeah, I think miraculous. I'm not ashamed to say that.
No,
I don't know. This is not what regularly happens. I've never had anyone knock me down with by saying, "I am He."
Nope.
Have you?
I don't.
Yeah. No,
Not yet.
not yet. So this is the situation. So Peter's the one that's going to be sort of the spotlight here.
Well, and as typical Peter, he's impulsive.
Mm-hmm.
He jumps out of the water, out of the boat into the water.
Yeah.
He
That's a good move, right?
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
sure.
yeah.
He does in the moment what he thinks is
Yeah.
the best thing to do, and so he grabs that sword and goes to cut the guy's head off.
Well, that's probably not a good move.
Well, but he thought again,
jumping out of the boat.
But
no.
again, he
Yeah.
thought that was
Yeah,
the
he
right
thought-
thing to do.
he thought
just
that was
like
a good-
just like Saul
Mhm.
thought he was doing the right thing, and
Right.
had to be set straight, both of them, by Jesus.
And of course, he cuts off his ear. The part we don't get this here in John. He doesn't record the Jesus puts the ear back on. He doesn't leave him earless. He puts it back on, heals it. So that scene is bigger than they bargained for.
He healed someone that came there to arrest him.
Yeah.
With no
Right.
inkling of any kind of belief or faith. Usually we see that.
Yeah.
Jesus says your faith has healed you, and or they say,
Right.
heal us. We believe that you can do this, and nothing here. He just
Yeah.
rights a wrong that Peter had
Right.
done.
So he's making the point here in verse 36, my kingdom's not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jews. But now my kingdom is from another place. So he's proving that by telling Peter, verse 11, and it doesn't say Jesus said, it says, my version says Jesus commanded.
Mine says
Peter.
Jesus said to Peter.
Said? Okay.
But
What kind of version do you have?
it's the wrong one. But it's
Did you just write that before you came here?
I kind of picture Jesus saying Peter, not really drawing a whole lot of attention to him necessarily, but Peter, just put your sword away. This is not how this is going to happen. This is,
Yeah.
this is what I have to do. I have to do. Shall I not drink the cup that the Father's given me? This is what.
Yeah.
This is the way it has to be. Kind of almost, I picture him comforting Peter a little bit here
Yeah.
and saying, "Listen, this."
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at this scene. It's like, you just cut a guy's ear off, Put your sword back. I don't know how gently he said it, but...
I imagine him being gentle with Peter, because he has to be.
Yeah.
Over and over, when he picks up Peter out of the water,
Yeah.
and he fell in. I don't see, and what you usually say is, how you hear Jesus is what you think of God, and
Right.
And I picture Peter or Jesus here saying, Peter, not now. This is not.
Yeah.
This is not helping me.
This is not the way... Well, I'm going to drink the cup that the Father's given me. I am going through with this. We got... Okay. Do I have something on my
Giving
face?
signals?
No.
Okay.
The production
The
staff
production
is-
staff is a little unruly right now.
Well, they're distracting for sure.
Yeah.
I think we need a pay raise.
They're gonna go on strike.
Yeah, they're going on strike. Oh, we're in trouble
You getting
now.
paid for this? What?
Anyway, I don't know. They're conspiring. This sort of has a real feel to it. They're conspiring against us somehow. I don't know what they're going to do, but anyway.
Could you say something and make them fall over?
I don't know. No. I could say something and I would fall over. No.
Bob Harper does
Okay,
say
good.
it may have been hard to hear over Malchus' screaming.
Whoa, that's a good. I've never
Very
thought of
good.
that, Bob.
Yeah, that's right.
But also, Jamie says Jesus told them to bring a couple of swords. He knew
Yeah,
that
yeah,
Peter was going to do that. He was still teaching through the whole event how to love.
yeah. Absolutely. He knew exactly what's going on. Nothing surprised Jesus, and so he's kind of calm, cool, and collected here because he knows he's going on a cross. I mean, he knows how this is going to play out. And this is what.
Well, he knows the
The-
Jews can't kill him. He knows that they have to go through the Romans, and the Roman method of execution was the cross, and that he knew that from the beginning, even before the beginning,
right?
That was how everything was going to play out.
And he knows he's laying his life down. No one's taking it from him.
Exactly.
Right.
No one kills him.
Right. He's for the joy set before him. Right. He endured the cross. So this is part of this enduring the cross. Verse where are we? Verse 12. Yeah. Soldiers, the officials, they arrest Jesus, and they bound him, brought him to.
They took him to Annas first, the
father-in-law. Father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest that year, and so Peter is his first denial is on the way. Verse 15. He and another disciple were following Jesus, but the disciple was known to the high priest. He went with Jesus into the high priest's courtyard.
And it's generally assumed this was John. Yeah. He's talking about himself, calling himself the disciple.
And but Peter had to wait outside, and so this is where it all starts for him, and it starts to kind of unravel, and he gets kind of recognized. Aren't you one of the? And wow, so it comes down to you want. There's this point, and we all have this point in our lives. I mean, obviously we're not in this scene. It may not seem as big as this, but we all come to this point in our lives where it comes down to whether we're going to admit we know him or we don't, and it can be by our actions, us actually saying that, or our actions deny, or whatever it might be. Now we're to deny ourselves, take up our crosses daily, and follow him. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Peter gets to this point. You remember what Satan said to God in Job about a man will do pretty much anything to save himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You take away this, I guarantee you he will curse you to your face.
It comes down to this. Do you want any part of what Jesus is going through? I mean, are you wanting to die? Mm-hmm. And now the great thing is to go and read. You read these things that the Apostle Peter went through, and then you go and read 1st and 2nd Peter, and you see
the development,
the growth, and just how God has blessed him, and how he's making it plain that and most of the writing that he does, he's going to talk about suffering and how we suffer.
Not only that, we'll get there eventually to the end of this book when we see Jesus interact with Peter after the resurrection. And the first time Peter sees him, probably not the first time, but at least an interaction between the two of them where Jesus had every right to say, "You remember when you betrayed me?
Yeah.
You remember that? 3 times. I told you would do it, and you did it." But he doesn't bring it up.
And he actually asks him, "Do you love me?" He makes him say it 3 times.
Yes.
And there's something to that. So you could look at Peter getting out of the boat, walking toward Jesus on the water, and sinking. And Peter could say, "That's my worst moment." A lot of us could say, "This is a defining moment for me. This is my worst moment in my life." And I don't know how in the world do you recover from that? How in the world do we recover from, or can we recover? Well, of course we can, but it's only through Jesus, you see. And it's only with him that we make the recovery. It's never on our own. It's never trying to right the ship of our own making. It's never that.
We tend
we
to
try though. Don't
well,
we?
we tend to just dig ourselves deeper and deeper in a hole.
Right.
And you can see Peter might have that tendency, but he knew Jesus well enough. I believe that he knew Jesus well enough to know that he could come back after this. This was not the end of his story. It didn't have to be the end of his story. Whereas Judas, also a low point for him, and he realizes it after everything is over. But he did not have the same conviction, I think, that Jesus would forgive him after what he did, and so he chose a different path.
It almost seems like everyone's reaching a new low here.
This is the low point.
Even the low point of Jesus' existence as the Savior, right? I mean,
we say that as human beings because we know that death is permanent.
Yeah.
But it's really, this is the high point of everything. Everything.
Well, yeah. It's Genesis 3.
Everything points to this moment.
Yeah.
It's the fulcrum of history. Not to bring a sciencey word.
Pretty good.
Fulcrum.
Satan thinks it's the lowest point.
Yeah.
Physics.
What did you say?
I said Satan thinks it's the lowest
Right.
point.
Yeah.
Satan thinks he's won. That's
Yeah.
right.
Brooke said Satan thinks it's the lowest point for sure.
This is the moment when Luke's hand is cut off. Han Solo is frozen in carbonite.
What in the world, Luke?
The Republic is dead,
okay.
But there's a resurrection. There's another
I don't
episode.
know what you're talking about.
You do too. There's another episode coming up. It's the dark time.
Well, okay.
This 3-day period when Jesus is dead, this is the dark point.
Well, yes, and think about you go if you're Peter, you're going from this moment of denial, and one of the writers says when he's writing about this says that Jesus at that point when the rooster crowed the third time, Jesus turns and looks at Peter, and that's a pivotal point as well. So that's maybe the last interaction he has with Jesus until he's told that, well, go tell the others, and especially Peter, about this resurrection.
He runs into the...
And so to see
that
Jesus on the seashore fixing breakfast, no wonder he jumps out of the boat. No wonder. What a beautiful scene that is. So you talk about a dark period. I watched a few videos on some of the space shuttles that were launched, and some of them had, I think it was Challenger, Columbia. Was those two disasters. But there's a certain point when they are re-entering the atmosphere, or they're going out, they lose contact.
Right, lose radio contact.
And everyone in that control room is holding their breath.
That's right.
To see what's going to take place, and there's some dark times here ahead from this moment forward for Peter, because of the setting, and because, like Brooke said, Satan thinks he won, or it's
over. Yeah.
He thought this was and so it's his job to convince. In the Revelation, John says that Satan is the accuser of the saints. So, wow, does he have anything to accuse Peter of? He's got a lot of ammo here, right? And Peter just handed it to him. So he's got a lot to hit him with, and he surely does. So I guess the point is that even when it looks really bad, even when you think you can't come back, God will allow it.
Mm-hmm.
He will allow it.
Well, I mentioned that song that I can't lead it anymore. I'll never forsake the Savior. Have you ever, that song?
I don't know if I know that.
Have you know? Yeah, you know that song.
You want to sing it for us?
Nope.
Nor will he lead it.
Because I can't say that
Yeah.
truthfully, because I know that there will be times, just like Peter did, that I will. But I also know the end of the story,
Mm-hmm.
that I can come back, just like Peter did.
Yeah.
And that Jesus would not hold that against me. He didn't remind Peter that he denied him. He basically said, I need you to lead my people.
Yeah. There's nothing better than to have a job. I mean, when you think you're done, and you think it's all over with Jesus, that He's kind of sets you back up on your feet and gives you a task.
Mm-hmm.
So are we close to
Yeah, it's
done?
Oh,
It's time?
It's 41. 7:41.
Okay. Well, we must stop.
I told you we weren't going to get done.
We well, we got almost.
There's some really good stuff in here that that's just way deeper than the story that we have.
Right. So, remember this. You can have dark times in your life and times when you don't shine, but that doesn't mean that God is done with you or He is wanting to just throw you away. You might feel that way, but that doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen. Because He did all of this. He's doing all of this for all of us so that we...
and He knew what was going to happen.
He knows exactly what's going on. So I was thinking of this driving. I did a Bible study this morning, early Bible study with some guys at the church building, and I was just thinking about God knowing what He was getting into when He created human beings, and He. You may question why He does, but He does. He loves us. He wants us. He's made provision for us. And He gives us something to do.
Well, I've said that too. Would you have children knowing that they would probably not want to love you back? Or at least the majority of them.
Yeah.
That's hard, but
Yeah.
but loving them so much that you would have them anyway and give them a life and an opportunity. So, and that's what He does for us.
Right.
He knows that many will not choose to love Him, and He does it anyway. He still came.
He's still with the Apostle Peter, even in his cutting off of the ear and all. He's still, like Jamie was saying, it's still a teachable moment here. Malchus probably doesn't think so. But
I wonder what.
I bet he did learn something.
I'd like to get some, the rest of Malchus'
I'd
story.
like to read his cliff notes on this. We need to stop. We love you all, and we're glad that you tuned in. You have any parting words?
I'm glad to be back. Doing this.
Good setting.
Don't know how much longer we'll be able to.
Well, from our three producers, they say good night, and thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next Tuesday. God bless you.
The finish one.